Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael English. I'm the president of the Tampa Historic Streetcar Board of Directors. Welcome to the June 15th, 2022 regular Board of Directors meeting. The format is hybrid. Quorum is not physically present, so we will open this as a workshop until another member either arrives electronically or arrives physically. We are at the HART Administrative Offices at 1201 East 7th Avenue in their boardroom, and we have members participating via our communication media technology. I believe Mr. Mechanic is the only one at the moment. I'd like to call the meeting to order and have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I want to apologize to board members in the audience. I forgot my inside glasses, so I'm not trying to be cool. The only way I can see is with these sunglasses on. Roll call, please.
President English.
Present.
Director Doring Ahern.
Present.
Director Hardy.
Present.
Director Johnson had indicated he would be absent. Director Mechanic.
Here.
Director Schisler.
Here.
Director Williams. You do now have a physical quorum.
That's great.
Present.
Thank you, Gil. Well, we're glad you're here. The next item is on our agenda is approval of minutes. They are in your packet. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
We would have to have a motion for you to vote on.
Oh, I need a motion. Sure, I need a motion and a second.
Second.
Approval.
We have a motion and a second. Now, a roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. President English.
Present. Yes.
Director Doring Ahern.
Yes.
Director Hardy.
Yes.
Director Mechanic.
Yes.
Director Schisler.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a streetcar system performance report. Mr. Allen.
Good afternoon, President English, Ms. LeGrand, members of the board. Ryan Allen, Director of Streetcar Operations. For April, we had another great month for ridership, 104,826. This was the second largest month we've had in the history of the line. That compares to 71,726 the previous year. Of those, 156 were ADA boardings with no issues. And we also provided 2 extra hours of service for a charter, which was the first time in quite a while for that. On-time performance was 99.8% with 8 reported late departures from the EOLs. And we had 65.5 reported missed trips. The missed trips were caused by a shortage of operators, which totaled 48 3/4 trips. Mechanical issues, 8.5 trips. An accident that I'll speak about in a minute, and 1.75 trips for needing to clean a car. The accident was on April 30th when car 432 was traveling southbound and a private vehicle ran in front of it and was struck. No one was injured in the accident. The vehicle, though, received heavy damage and had to be towed from the scene. 432 only received minor damage, and the driver of the vehicle was cited in the accident. Also on the same day, we had an incident where a motorman ran through a red signal at the CSX interlock. The event was reported by an Amtrak crew. The motorman's certification to operate a streetcar was permanently revoked.
Ooh.
In this.
Good. Too bad.
Okay. And for May, ridership was 89,651. Compared to last year, that's 65,914 for 2021. This was actually the best May we've ever had in the history of the line.
Excellent.
So, and ADA boardings for that month were 140. We did 6 extra hours of service and that was to extend the runs for the Lightning playoff games. On-time performance was 99.83, and missed trips were down to 21.75. Missed trips were caused by mechanical issues, 13 3/4, and a shortage of operators, which was 8 trips. We had 1 incident, and that was caused by a switch malfunction here by Cadrisha Plaza, where the streetcar picked the switch, no damage to the switch, the streetcar. The cause was a faulty component within the switch itself. Currently, I have 1 motorman in training and 3 open positions which we are posted for. And infrastructure-wise, streetcar 430 returned from being rebuilt at Gameco on May 19th. And the switch at South Adamo Drive was repaired and will be grouted once all the material arrives. That concludes my report. Does anybody have any questions for me?
It sounds to me, Brian, like you have a chronic shortage of operators.
It's everybody seems to be having that issue.
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah, you're not alone in the world, believe me, but hopefully you can resolve that soon. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item, agenda number 5, is a presentation of our preliminary budget. It will be presented by Ms. Kirk, Loretta Kirk, who is the new Chief Financial Officer here, and she's going to do this virtually. If you turn to page 15 of your packet, the budget is displayed there. So, Ms. Kirk, you are on.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President English, members of the THS Board, and Ms. LeGrand. This is a presentation on the preliminary budget for the fiscal year 2023 HART and Tampa Historic Streetcar budget. As stated, this is a preliminary budget subject to change based on budget deliberations and feedback from this board and the HART board. This is the agenda for the presentation. We'll talk about the projected level of service for fiscal year 23, the projected operating statistics, the streetcar operating revenues and expenses for HART, the revenues and expenses for THS, the combined budget, the streetcar capital expenditures, and next steps. This is the post service for fiscal year 23. As noted, we have proposed adding additional service from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. with 12-minute frequency on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Monday through Thursday service remains unchanged from the prior year, and the proposed total service hours for fiscal year 2023 are 27,888 hours. This slide shows the proposed hours, miles, ridership, average revenue hours per day, and cost per service hour compared to 2020, 2021, and 2022. As noted, and as I stated just a few minutes ago, the revenue hours are projected at 27,888. Revenue miles, 140,785. Ridership, 1,000,002. Average revenue hours per day, 76.4. Average riders per day, 3,288. And cost per service hour, $139.12. The next 2 slides summarize the HART streetcar operating revenues and expenses. And of course, each budget presented here is a balanced budget. HART revenues are projected at $3,170,563, and HART expenses are also projected at $3,170,563. The budgeted revenue, as you can see in the fiscal year 23 column, we expect $700,000 from FDOT, FTA grant of $200,000, advertising of $86,310, Fair revenue for special events, $3,000. Funding from the Tampa contribution for the tax increment refinancing or TIP, $759. City of Tampa contribution from the general fund, $591,000. And funding from the Tampa Historical Streetcar, which is the balancing number, $831,253. In terms of expenses, on the next slide, salaries and wages, $2,074,134. Fringe benefits, $581,244. Fuel and oil, $5,837. Parts and supplies, $160,918. Contracted services, $21,760. Marketing and printing, $53,000. Insurance, $80,000. Utilities, $145,569. And other expenses, $48,100, for total expenses and revenues, $3,175,063 on the HART side. The next slide has the revenues and expenses for THS. These numbers were provided from the City of Tampa. Revenues include special service districts, $1,309,108. Streetcar advertising, $32,451. And additional funding from the City of Tampa, $198,909. In terms of expenses, the CXX insurance, $667,365. Attorney fees, $6,000. Accounting fees, $25,000. General liability insurance, $500. Advertising fees, $10,350. And again, the contribution to HART to balance the budget, $831,253. For total revenues and expenses, $1,540,468. The next slide is a summary of the two budgets that I just covered. So the total expected revenue, $3,879,778, and of course the total projected expenses, $3,879,778. This is the proposed staff for fiscal year 2023. For fiscal year 2022, we budgeted 33 positions. The fiscal year 2023 budget includes 35 positions, which includes 2 additional operators, or to operate the additional service that we talked about earlier. This is the slide of capital expenditures that HART is budgeting. For vehicle maintenance, we're budgeting $1,000,001, and that includes streetcar parts of $700,000 and phase 2 streetcar rebuild of $400,000. And then we're also budgeting $185,000 for infrastructure maintenance, and that includes repairs to the roof and the replacement of the streetcar mezzanine. For a total capital budget for fiscal year 23, $1,285,000. In terms of next steps, we do have the responsibility to submit to the city the tentative budget or this preliminary budget to the City of Tampa. We'll continue budget deliberations with the expectation that this board will adopt the streetcar operating budget on August 17th. And then in September, during one of the public hearings, the final public hearing by the HART board, then we will present the information to the HART board of directors to adopt our operating and capital budget, which will include the streetcar operating and capital budget. And with that, President English, that completes the presentation on the fiscal year 23 preliminary HART THS budget, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Questions, folks? Yes, Gil?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hey, Ms. Kirk, how you doing? Got a couple questions regarding, well, the first one is regarding staffing. The 18, or how many of the current associates are governed by the unions, the CBA that we just did? All of them?
I'm going to let Brian Allen, who is there and is responsible for the Streetcar, he can step to the podium and answer that question.
Yes, all the maintenance and operating employees are covered by the ATU contract.
Okay, so we have the proposed contract increases cranked into these numbers?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you, very good. The other question I had then was on capital. Capital budget had a significant drop, if you will, year over year from the 22 projection for both vehicle maintenance and infrastructure maintenance to the 23 proposed budget. What's changed? That's a big number. We've done that for a couple of years now. But that's not true. We had a big increase in 22 and then dropping in 23. What's going to change that we're not going to have to be concerned with that?
Yeah, and I'll let Brian answer that, but I'm
Okay.
sure it has to do with the rebuild, the vehicle rebuild project.
Yes, right now, we're coming to the end of the 4-car rebuild.
Four of them? Okay.
And we're planning to do a 5th car, but the contracting and everything, there will be a gap in there.
Okay.
So that's a projection for cash flow.
Okay. And then the other comes with the rail beds and so forth?
Right.
Same project that was going on for that?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That was my question. Appreciate it. Good presentation.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure, Mr. Mechanic.
I'm just curious as to the impetus behind reducing the headways on the weekend hours from 15 to 12 minutes. What caused us to think we should be doing that?
During those times, specifically on Saturdays and Sundays, we're running drop-off only because the crowds are so heavy. So this is to gain more capacity on the
Oh,
system
wow.
and to better move people.
It's a nice problem to have, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Very impressive.
And will that alleviate that problem?
It should.
It'll
I
help.
mean, our ridership continues to astound us, so
It's a
I think
high-class
it's a-
worry, kind of, isn't it?
May I?
David, are you, does that conclude your question?
Yeah, I guess I only asked that question in light of the fact that we are looking at an increase in the budget. I don't know what that 3 minutes equates to in terms of extra money, dollars in the budget. But, you know, if it's something necessary and appropriate, I guess we should accept that as it is, you know.
it's a relatively small amount. It's basically the salaries and a small bump for traction power. So it's
It's not a big cost.
not a huge cost.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Ahern,
We were on the streetcar,
can you,
we were on the streetcar earlier this week with the family and some out-of-town guests, and I've got to say the difference from 20 to 15 made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the shift it's going to change when we get to 12 minutes. I think also this addresses some of the major concerns that the Channel District, CRA, CAC had when we asked them last year if they would be open to providing additional funding. And their major point was that they wanted to see increased headways. So I think this will go a long way when we go to present to them in the coming weeks. How did the job fair go? Will we be able to have enough drivers?
So, may I?
Sure.
President English? So the job fair went really well. We were able to attract over 100 people, and we offered more than 60 jobs. And if you recall the job fair, the way it was structured, you could come in, you learned about the job opportunities, you could apply for it, you could talk to folks and have an interview, as well as doing your first screening for like the drug screening and background screening. So several people went through that process, and we were able to offer over 60 jobs. Some people couldn't stay for the entirety of the time to go through all those steps, but we are following up with them because we want them to come to the next level. So I would say overall it was a success. Staff in the room also participated. I see folks nodding their heads. So, we had an opportunity for people to get on buses, to meet people who actually work here at HART. We had operators in their uniforms. So this is something that we're looking to do again. We're getting all the data now to really understand how many people we touched, how much our paid advertising actually helped us to get people out, and then we'll, have lessons learned and go out again. So we feel good with that approach, but as Mr. Allen stated, we are struggling nationwide for every sector to get employees, so we're trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Just one more point on that. I really appreciate the marketing materials that you put out for the job fair. I think it was very clear, precise, energetic, and I loved the mission statement that you incorporated to the bottom. It really showed who HART is and that you have HART, so.
Thank you, and again, that was a team. This whole idea for the job fair came from a staff person who asked if this is something that we could do, and then he took it and ran with it. So Brian Abrams, he's not in the room with us today, but this was really his special project, and he collaborated with the entire team and made it happen. So we're looking forward to doing that. And again, we're open to more internal innovation and ideas, and that's what really keeps us ahead of the curve, listening to the people who are already here doing the job every day.
There you go. Thanks.
Yes, Cal.
Yes, I have a question to kind of go off of Mr. Mechanic's question. So are the only thing that is necessary for increasing, the only cost incurred from increasing the headway is operator costs? Like there is no other infrastructure costs or anything like that for that?
There are going to be some incremental costs for things like a little more for traction power. Your brake shoe, some of your consumable costs will go up, but it's relatively minor because we buy in bulk for those things.
Okay, so I was just kind of curious, like if this was something that would, if we could extend it into the weekday days in the future, we're really looking at an operator shortage. That's the main that's the main barrier to this.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? I had a chance to talk to Ms. Kirk a bit as she was preparing it, and she did a really nice job, by the way. It was her first time tackling it. It's pretty clear that most of the budget increase is really to pay people more money, to hire some extra staff, more staff. The system is creaking under the weight of the increased ridership. It is a high-class worry, but it's a worry. And so I'm fully supportive of it. I don't know if Mr. Bide has seen this yet, or if he's aware of the need to dig up some more money, but I would very much like an opportunity to discuss it with him. And as Ms. Ahern mentioned, it's really about time for us to be scheduled in front of the 3 CRA advisory boards. The Director of Marketing has typically put a little package together for us, which I'd like him to be able to do, and has helped schedule these meetings, and some relatively senior person from HART has always accompanied us to those meetings. I don't know if we did any of that last year.
I think because of COVID, we didn't really go out and do it in person, but we do have our marketing director in the room, Ms. Kimley Green, if you will stand and be recognized. So Kimley is our Director of Marketing and Communications and Customer Experience. I don't know how we're going to write all that on your business card, but and she's been with the organization for a while, and she's worked in the marketing department in the past, and she was over our customer service area for the last several years, and she's agreed to take this new role where we're combining our customer service and community engagement and marketing all in one department because they're all interwoven.
That's excellent.
So she will definitely be pulling the materials together, she and her team, and she'll be available to accompany.
That's great. Thank you so much. Typically, Abby and I are the people that decide that we split those meetings up, and so we'll look forward to hearing from her. I also want to compliment Frank. I can't pronounce his last name correctly, but he put a wonderful marketing report together, and frankly, the content was very impressive. All the things that you are doing, participating in the community and doing events and encouraging people to ride the streetcar, it's all very impressive. And if you haven't read that report, it's in your package. I would encourage you to look at it. It's very impressive. I'm just really pleased. The streetcar is doing well and thriving, and so we want to do everything we can to give you the support you need.
Well, thank you for the comment on Frank, and just to also state he's been with HART for, I want to say, over a decade, and he was recently promoted to be the manager of the marketing department. So he's doing a great job, and I'm happy that you recognize his contributions.
He's a very nice young man, and he's very talented, and we really appreciate his efforts. Okay, any other questions on the budget? If not, we will see it next month, and hopefully we'll hear from the city about what help we can give you all in scaring up some more funds. So, Ms. Kirk, thank you very much for your presentation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda will be legal and legislative reports with Mr. Smoker. Hello, Mr. Smoker.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. Apologize for being late. My parking space is under construction.
How disconcerting for you.
I had to scramble. I have nothing on the legislative front to report, but we do have a matter of essentially kicking the tires on our general liability policy. We currently are insured by Preferred Governmental Insurance Trust, which is a...
Could you speak more directly into the microphone, please?
Sure. Is this better? We're currently insured by Preferred Governmental Insurance Trust. They specialize in governmental insurance. They insure municipalities, schools, housing authorities, counties, charter schools, transit, port, and utility companies. So, I mean, they are specialized in the type of liability insurance that is what we need. Our current policy is we have a general liability policy of $1 million per occurrence. There's no deductible on that. We have public officials liability coverage, $1 million per claim. There's a $2,500 deductible. And then we have cyber liability in the amount of $2 million, and that's $25,000 deductible. Our total premium for the October 21 through October 22 coverage is $11,380. And that represented a $1,030 or 9.95% increase over the prior year. And if you'll remember, one of our board members thought it would be a good idea for us to kick the tires on this. The current policy expires on October 1st of 2022. So if we're going to do any changes in our policy or go out to bid conceivably with other carriers, we need to get that ball rolling. I consulted with Grant Mielek, and I think it's at page 27 of the materials. You'll see a general summary of the audit that he performed, and I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Grant right now so that he can kind of explain to you the pros and cons and what the current market is like. And I think if you were to ask me as a lawyer, I would tell you it's kind of a zero-sum game at this point.
A what?
A zero-sum game.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but let's hear what Grant Mielek has to say. Mr. Mielek, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Mr. Chairman. You hear me okay? Test. Okay.
And before he starts, everyone, his report is in the package if you care to follow it while he's talking. Thank you. Excuse me.
Yes, sir. And just to clarify, I know Mr. Smoker said he was a little bit late due to the parking spot. I actually walked outside my building and a sheriff's helicopter said get inside. So I think my reason for being late is a little more special. No, I was kidding. Always something in Ybor. But anyways, Mr. Smoker, basically, he asked me to do an audit on the policies the past few years. It's been something I've been paying attention to as it is. And basically, what we found the past 2 years is the rates have gone up essentially 17% and 14%. Now, if this is the property market, as we all know, the property market in Florida is not very well, very healthy. I could see where this would be, in line with what's going on in the property market. The issue is PREA, which is the coverage, the professional liability coverage. It covers your directors and officers liability, your EPLI coverage, and your general liability coverage. Those premiums in the marketplace have not been fluctuating as much to this degree. So I put my thinking cap on, and I was saying, okay, PREA's been around since the 70s. Why are they receiving these huge rate increases? And it kind of occurred to me, since how the program was essentially set up as an aggregator where, basically they insured all public entities within Florida. For prices to go up that much, that means they're either receiving significant claims or people are pulling out of the program. I suspect that people are pulling out of the program due to some of the restrictions and exclusions that we have found on this past year's policy that are pretty powerful. I'd just like to go ahead and go through them in detail. First, let's start with some of the positive highlights of the PREA program. 1, very low deductible. 2, well-established. 3, cost efficient due to all these public entities being insured by PREA. Excellent coverage for vanilla risks and their claims handling. Now, the negative highlights we found of PREA are the premiums are going up substantially. Once again, since it is an aggregate program, this alludes to the possibility that other public entities are leaving the program. Powerful exclusions have recently been added to the policy form. I just wanted to name a few. I just wanted to name a few that were on there. There's actually about 2 full pages that are on there. And on top of that, I don't think you want to hear me talk about insurance for a half an hour. But some of these exclusions are cross-suits liability. That is a very powerful exclusion, and that becomes problematic with how THS is set up with HART in the city. So I think that's something that I need to sit down with HART and we need to address. Some other exclusions are defense costs erode from the limit of liability. This is essentially your directors and officers liability policy. And insurance 101 is you never, ever, ever, defense costs should never, ever, ever erode from the limits of liability. As an attorney, Mr. Smoker, you could probably say that to get up on a big case, $1 million in lawyers' fees probably wouldn't take that much to get there. So that's why defense costs should always be separate and outside the limit of liability. Third one is fiduciary mismanagement. This was a manuscript endorsement, and what that means is that the program administrator or underwriter created their own endorsement. It's not an ISO endorsement, which is the Insurance Services Organization endorsements. It's a complete manuscript endorsement, and by just stating that fiduciary mismanagement is excluded, doesn't give much details. It's not an ISO endorsement, and when you see these things, it typically heavily tilts the power to PREA or the program administrator in the event of a claim. Again, the list of exclusions goes on for another 2 pages. Some would apply to THS, while others would have no bearing. In our professional opinion, we feel that it is appropriate to engage certain markets in procuring coverage. From the initial discussions that we have had with certain markets, we are confident that we can provide better coverage and save a couple $1,000s. For full disclosure purposes, though, the one main coverage highlight that THS would lose is a low SIR or deductible, which PREA currently offers. Just with the informal discussions with a few of my carriers, they said THS would be looking at $25,000 deductible. Again, this is just very informal, conversations. And for all intents and purposes, my firm, and I don't think any firm in the world would ever say, oh, hey, yeah, go raise your deductible. It's just not a very smart move. It's your job to keep the deductible lower. That said, you also have to take a step back and look at how well THS is run, by HART, by city, by the board, and you look to see if there's any frequencies or claims. And I have not in the 20 years been researching all these records, THS has never had a claim. So that makes me feel more comfortable that, okay, is it worth it to have a higher deductible to save a couple $1,000s? I feel comfortable just based on the claims frequencies and just with these exclusions that have been added in the past year. I think it definitely warrants looking for procuring coverage with a different carrier.
Thank you, Grant. Questions?
That ends my audit. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
I would only,
Mike, I have a
Sure,
comment.
Sure, David.
which David?
Thank you for that report. It's a real eye-opener when you consider those exclusions, and I can't imagine what other ones that are there that you haven't gone through, but the ones that you did mention seem extremely significant and troubling. The only thing, I am fully on board with the idea of shopping this thing and seeing if we can get better coverage at a lower premium, but I also personally think the $25,000 deductible is probably not significant to us, and I've said this on a few occasions in the past, given that the city of Tampa is the ultimate financial backstop for THS and the streetcar operation, we should ask the city to focus on that question of the deductible in particular and to be involved in the review of the insurance in general because, again, they have a greater financial stake in the matter than the other parties to the agreement. So as we shop this, if we decide to do that, I would just want the city to be heavily involved in that review process.
Well said. Well said. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would only supplement on our claims history since I have been
Speak up.
since I've been representing the board personally, which I think is probably going on about 5 years now or more. We've only had 2 claims, only one of which I think ultimately ended up in payment of money, and it was a relatively small amount. So I can't speak to the claim history before I started, but I suspect it's been very, very infrequent. And typically, it arises in connection with a lawsuit that's filed against the city and THS. THS is sort of viewed as the entity that's operating, and the city, since they own the right-of-way, is typically the one that is also joined. So we have a very infrequent claim, so I think that counterbalances the idea of having to pay a significant deductible.
And let me just say too, with the contacts that I've had with various carriers, is this audit is outlining the worst-case scenarios as far as the deductible. This is where my insurance nerd part comes in, and I take this as a competition to, A, lower the deductible and add coverage. So I think if, with what I see going on in the market, we do kick the tires around and stuff, I think we could get to a lower deductible, possibly $15,000, save money, and add back-end coverage that has been removed. That is vital to THS or the city.
Remove some of the important exclusions. I agree, and I appreciate your analysis and your attention, both of you. I think you need to be sure that the city is aware of what you're doing and is comfortable with it. The policy expires, we have to do something when?
I think we would need to bring it to the board for approval at your September meeting at the latest, because the policy will expire on October 1 of...
When does it expire?
October 1 of 2022.
If you could manage it, let's do it in August. Prepare for August. If the city is comfortable with what, the city needs to be comfortable because they're the bottom line here, but HART needs to be fully aware of what's going on as well, because they have just as big a stake as we do in the city. So can someone advise Mr. Mielek and our attorney on what coordination we need to do with HART and the city, and hopefully we can come back with a recommendation next month?
Should I make a motion? Do we need a motion?
Yes,
would
would you please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we undertake the review recommended by our consultant and to include all the parties to the THS agreement, the City of Tampa, HART, and THS Board in any discussions and evaluation of the pros and cons of other insurance. That would be my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Gil.
Yes.
We have a motion. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor. Do we need a roll call vote, Danielle?
It would be preferred since you have a board member that's virtual.
Go ahead, please.
President English,
Yes.
Director Doring-Ahern,
Yes.
Director Hardy,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
and Director Williams.
It's great. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you next month.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
The next is the chair's report, next item on our agenda, and I really don't have a report. So let's move to the HART CEO's report. Ms. LeGrand.
Yes, I have a quick update. If you recall, at the last meeting, I shared that there was an APTA meeting, and I was going to attend and provide some more information from the Streetcar Subcommittee. So there were 3 presentations, one from OCTA, that's Orange County Transit Association, that's in Orange County, California, Tempe Streetcar, and the DC Streetcar. And those presenters really talked about their new service that they brought online and expansions of service. And 2 things that really stood out that I thought we should consider looking into. One, they were talking about energy absorbing bumpers. So these are bumpers that are on streetcars that if there are collisions, that it absorbs some of the energy to, I would say, reduce the negative impact of the collision, as well as friction modifiers. So there's new equipment out in the street for adding friction modifiers to the tracks as well as to the wheels, so that, our streetcars, as they make certain curves, they're pretty noisy in some areas. So those are some of the, I would say, innovations that they spend a lot of time talking about. So that's something that we will look into for our operation here and be able to report back to you on what can work here. So just wanted to share that with you briefly.
Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda, number 9, Vector Media Sales Activity Update, Ms. Kemley Green, who is our new marketing director.
Good afternoon, Mr. English, members of the board, Ms. LeGrand. I'm Kemley Green, And today I'm presenting the report for advertising space sold by Vector Media through, April. Our total was $11,350 for April, and this is from, sorry, my Spanish is jumping in here. Anheuser-Busch for a full transit wrap. Then we have 3 from Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey for end panel space, interior card, and a super slide space. And the third one is from Natural Defense Industrial Association for a full wrap, a concrete pillar, a light pole, and a media pillar as well. That total was $11,350 for April. And for May, we do not have any new advertising. This is the 9th year of our contract. And that is my update for today, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Anyone have questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, thank you.
The next item on our agenda are compliance reports. I would encourage you to go back and look at the marketing. It's just a great report, and the financials are interesting too. So with that, is there any old business? Hearing none, is there any new business?
I do have one thing.
Yes.
I meant to mention this to Mr. Allen during his report, but the city had a chance to host the Bloomberg Associates with Jeanette Sadie-Kahn. I don't know if anybody, I know a few of y'all were there.
Oh, yeah, she's a big time.
I hope everybody got a chance to go see the presentation at Tampa Theater on Tuesday night. However, we did ride the streetcar for a portion of that visit, and we had a chance to ride it with the new motorman in training, by the way. So he did a great job, and so did the trainer. So they were, they were very impressed with the streetcar. They loved the aesthetic of it and everything too. So just wanted to let everybody know on that one.
Well, it sounded like, I was out of town, but I read the news report. It sounded like she wasn't very impressed with a lot of stuff we were doing, but she liked the streetcar.
Yeah, she did. They had there's actually a social media post that the city of Tampa put out on their own, and it shows them actually on the streetcar when we were doing that visit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. English?
Yes, please, Ms. Aaron.
2 quick feel-goods as well. So our alternate member, Tyler Hudson, just had a new baby. So I
Nice.
thought we could all say congrats to him. Baby number 3 has
Unusual
arrived.
for a band, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think he'll carry equal weight there, as much as he can. And then also, Motorman Raphael. We got to have yet another experience with him, not only at our wedding, but most of the time when we're on the streetcar, we see him at least once a day. And he helped my little 4-year-old pull the bell. He didn't know who I was, and that's the way I wanted it. But it was just really engaging and kind to know that he treats everyone so kindly and with such great respect, and was just out of his way to make sure everyone was comfortable. And then I heard that he might be retiring next year and almost cried. So hopefully we can find more members from the job fair to be equally as embracing as Mr. Raphael.
Yes, he provides the kind of customer service that we strive for here.
He's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, no old business, no new business, therefore
So
this meeting.
one last new
Yes,
business,
please, sure.
President English and I chatted a little bit about this before the meeting started. So we're going to add to the next agenda a conversation on the contract. The language in our contract says that it will expire in September if Ms. Kirk, you can correct me if I say this incorrectly, but we have until September to modify or revise our contract. If not, it will just automatically renew as is. So in talking to President English, he thought it was appropriate to put it on the next agenda, since we have had several conversations over the last several months. I'm looking at Ms. Barron in the back. I know one of our legal members, we have been looking at the contract with herself as well as Mr. Allen to really get an understanding of where some areas may exist for us to look at modifying. So we'll continue doing that work, and then at our next meeting, we'll have that on the agenda to formally go through that.
Thank you. That would be a good idea. I don't think any of us know much about the operating agreement. It's been around a long time, and we haven't really taken a hard look at it. So a presentation that kind of highlights what it really is would be great, and we'll move on from there. Any other business? If not, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, audience. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks,